Okay, we are in Psalm 85. Last time we talked about some of my old previous church experiences and how I was blessed with my previous pastors. I thought were both pretty great guys. I had some problems with my attitude in church, and that was really my fault. And we were talking about the right attitude as you come before God, and you choose to worship Him in the right way. And you want to fellowship with God, you want to please God, you live for God now. You don't live for the lip service, you know. Better is one day in your courts. Better is one day in your... You know that song that was sung many times at my old church? That was in the Psalm 84 that we just read last time. So what is that saying? Well, one day with God in His courts, in true fellowship with Him, I'd rather have that than 1,000 days of sin and pleasure and my own thing out here. See, that gets old pretty quick, I think. I think the prodigal son figured that out, and then he returned because he'd rather have that fellowship with God than living in sin. So the lesson of this psalm is teaching you to walk uprightly, to trust in Him. You want fellowship with God. David wanted fellowship with God. He was trying to hide his sin. He thought he got away with it, you know, but he didn't. So instead of murdering the guy, Nathan, who confronted him about the sin, he could have just had him shot, you know. Instead of doing that, bravery of Nathan to go before the king and accuse him, the most powerful man, you know. Instead, David said, yes, I did that. I am rotten. What must I do to make amends? Well, God has already put it away. But now, you know, you're going to be at war for the rest of your administration. I think that's one of the things he talked about, part of his punishment. So we don't get away with sin. We're still going to be punished for it, but He'll forgive you and pick you back up, and then you're walking with Him again. See, you have to get cleaned up before you can walk with Him. He doesn't justify some sin. He doesn't justify your bad behavior. You have to go with Him. You have to surrender to Him. It's an unconditional surrender. You don't get to stipulate with God and say, well, God, I'll give you, you know, my booze, but the sex, I can't give that up, but I still want you to use me, but I still gotta have this, you know. And it doesn't work that way, you know. Not that booze necessarily is a bad thing, or obviously adultery, that kind of thing, you know, that you can't have that, you know. He's not going to bless you if you're living in adultery or some other sin, you know. A beer at the end of your day might be actually a good thing for your heart, you know. Or maybe my body type might be something that actually helps someone like me. I don't know. Now, 5 beers at the end of my day, you know, that's probably not a good thing. That's probably something that I should be trying to get rid of. But maybe your body type needs 5 beers. I don't think so, though. The point is, If you want to live in his courts, if you want to fellowship with him, you have to go to him and confess what you've done, and then have him begin to change you. It's really all him. Maybe you never change, but you want to choose him. You choose fellowship with him. You want him. And that's some work to deny your natural fleshly inclinations, you know. You go to church with the right attitude. You go into church with the right spirit, and you want that fellowship with him. It doesn't have to be in a church. It could be just reading a Bible or talking to him. You want... I think that's what we were talking about last time. I'm going to move on to Psalm 85. I'll start in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time to study your word. Please teach us. Open our minds. Open our hearts. Reveal to us your truth, wisdom, and knowledge. And please have all of your will in all of our lives. In Jesus' name, Yeshua. Amen. To the chief musician, a psalm for the sons of Korah, verse 1. Lord, thou hast been favorable unto thy land. Thou hast brought back the captivity of Jacob. Thou hast forgiven the iniquity of thy people. Thou hast covered all their sin. Selah. See, every time I glance at that, I notice that... why does it put the Selah right there? I think it's because it's another hint of Christ. You know, he covers over the sin. He covers it up, but then Christ is the one who really washes it away. That's what I think it's hinting at, but I don't know. 3. Thou hast taken away all thy wrath. Thou hast turned thyself from the fierceness of thine anger. Turn us, O God of our salvation, and cause thine anger toward us to cease. This is what David knew. David knew that God could be merciful. God is merciful. And that's why David puts his hands in the hands of the living God, you know, puts his life in the hands of the living God. David knew that God would be merciful to him when he gets punished, you know. If he puts his hands in a foreign invading nation that's invading the land, maybe they take them hostage, you know, there could be no end to the punishment from a man. You know, you've seen some of these men. Think of Hans Gruber. Imagine if he did choose, some man takes over your country for like a month. You know, it's Hans Gruber taking over your country for a month. Imagine that. You know, how bad would that get? You know, I'm afraid you're just gonna have to kill me. Okay, you know, and then that would go on with like every single person, and he would just say, "We'll do it the easy way." Or hard way, and then he would still break into the bank anyway, and he would rob your country completely. He'd kill half your population. He'd kill Ellis. He'd kill McLean's wife, you know. He'd do all those things, set the building on fire. There'd be no end to Hans Gruber punishing you, but then you put your hands in with God. We'll go out in a little bit, okay? I know, I'm sorry, I brought up Die Hard. I shouldn't have done that. We'll go outside in a little bit. See, he knew that I shouldn't have brought up any Die Hard. It was my mistake. So those first four verses, that's what that makes me think of, especially with 3 and 4, that God is merciful. God, He could still save us from all this election nonsense. I'm worried about Thursday with Georgia, what's going to happen with all that. They're saying that that's going to set some precedent that they're just going to steal the election in all those other places, even though there's thousands of witnesses and so much testimony saying that this was all a fraud, this is all a cheat. He's brain dead. Nobody voted for him. Now, I was saying this to my coworker last night. If they put an attractive female African American lady there with intelligence, like Candace Owens, okay? Or let's say Halle Berry in let's see, The Last Boy Scout, pretty lady, Imagine her running for president, with that level of beauty, or the Flintstones. She was prettier than that. Okay. That'll be all, Miss Stone. You can take the rest of the day off. I'm sorry. They put that in as the candidate. Then I could justify, then I might accept it. She's highly intelligent. She's beautiful. Like that one lady. No, I forget her name. Extremely attractive. She was running on the Democrat ticket. Why didn't they get her? Then I would be, okay, I accept it. We're going into communism, but at least we're ruled by someone somewhat attractive. I would accept it then. I don't accept being ruled by a brain-dead communist. It's such nonsense. What are we talking about? He didn't win. He cheated. But maybe we're being judged, Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe we're being handed over to a bunch of men that are going to destroy this country. Which is exactly what David was worried about. He didn't want to be handed over to a bunch of human flesh, evil, He chose to be handed over to God. That's what I want. I want us to be handed over to God. Maybe that's what's already happened. Maybe God, we were going to be handed over to Him, and then God said, no, I'm going to hand you over to your own flesh. Let's see what happens. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. But I hope He is merciful to us and we get out of this mess. Because we are going into, it's really looking bad. 5, wilt thou be angry with us forever? Wilt thou draw out thine anger to all generations? No. See? That's what happened. David is the perfect example of this. The judgment lasted for what, 3 days? The angel was killing people for 3 days, and then the angel was ready to wipe out like another 100,000, and then God said, stop! That's enough! I think they get it. Psycho. And then, wilt thou be angry with us forever? Wilt thou draw out thine anger to all generations? This is a very interesting verse here that you could talk hours on. I think he penalizes directly for your direct sin. You are accountable to that. But then the things happening to you, like what's happening in this country right now. Is it because my grandfather was such an idiot? No. He was a party-swinging, drunken, sex maniac, joker, storyteller. Sounds familiar. Are the things happening to me and the things that have happened to me, is it because of the things that my grandfather did? That's my question. I inherited my grandfather's storytelling ability. But was my grandfather cheating on his wife? I asked my father about this. He doesn't know. And he won't give me an answer because that would tarnish my grandfather's name. If my grandfather works this late night job at this plastic factory, then he goes and boozes it at some bar, and then he comes home to my grandmother. What was he doing in those hours? She didn't see him very often, which leads you to, that's strange. So that's sin, and then, I don't know. And I didn't have any serious conversations with my grandfather before he died. And then my grandmother passed away, and I don't know if she knew God, if that was what was going on in her life, how did she deal with all that? How did she feel? And then what does she think of God? If God will allow some lowlife to cheat on her, why would she have any appreciation of God or the institution of marriage? And I don't know. I wonder about that verse. Am I paying for their failures? What did they teach the next generation? So then you have my father didn't know God. Nobody taught him anything. My father is a robot. He doesn't have empathy toward human beings. He comes right into my store without wearing a mask, not caring if it's going to get me fired or not. That's what happened the other day. It's kind of funny. He just smiled at me. And then all my coworkers look at me like... But that's what's created then is my father, who I don't know how he was able to attract my mother. I don't get it, because he has no empathy for other human beings. And somehow I was made, and now I get attacked, and so does my brother, by all these demons, demonic activity all around us. And here we are, Now I recognize it. Now we see it. I didn't choose the path of Satan. I didn't do what Satan wanted me to do. And now here we are, thinking back on all of it, and you gotta wonder, am I paying for the failure of the previous generation to not teach the next generation? And now I'm so screwed up. I don't know. It's a lot to think about. But see, here's where the healing can come in. Wilt thou not revive us again, that thy people may rejoice in thee? And then that, you could substitute in revival for that. You could look at Israel and think about some of the good kings. Hezekiah Munson, or I can't, it's so hard for me to remember some of those names, but they caused revival in their country. They got it. They understood. They looked back at the last generation like, Baal, what the hell is that crap? And they threw that out. They burned that all down. And then they tried to get people to come back to God. At some point, God says, nah, And that might be where we're at in this country with this election nonsense. You know, we might be at the point of no return, and his judgment is finally coming down on us, even though we deserved it back when my grandfather was cheating on my grandmother. I don't know if he actually did that, but it seems like it. Seems like people are hinting at that. Though they won't say it directly. Because not supposed to talk bad about dead people. Well, was that what he was doing? Is it his failure that he never knew God and now the whole family is screwed up? Is it his fault? But now here we are. I know him. And we're making our stand here. And oh man. Wilt thou not revive us again, that thy people may rejoice in thee? Show us thy mercy, O Lord, and grant us thy salvation. I will hear what God, the Lord, will speak, for he will speak peace unto his people and to his saints. His people, and to his saints. But let them not turn again to folly. This is a very controversial verse, isn't it? It's very good, very challenging too. Falling back into some sin. Do you turn away from it permanently, or do you fall back into your vomit? You know? Let them not turn again to folly. What did they do immediately after they got the land back? They build the wall, they build the temple. Oh, now I'm going to have sex with all these Canaanites. You know? See how we just fall back into all this. And Ezra is like, how? You know this is how we lost it in the first place. How could you do this? It speaks of human nature, flesh, two natures. The point is to get out of the mud, get out of the sin nature, and choose the spirit. Choose the new nature. Choose the new man. Don't fall back into the vomit of the old man. The drunken old man vomiting his whole life up. Ruined, abominable, pathetic. Get rid of it. And through Christ that is possible, through the new nature. Not in any will of the flesh, not in any works. It's through Christ, through a renewing of your mind, through reading this. I wish my grandfather would have read this and would have taught me some of this. I wish there were family videos, home videos of him trying to teach me the Bible. Instead, there's just home videos of him talking about a dog named Sex and all these sex jokes every 2 seconds in every family party, family kids party, joking about sex. Now, do I receive some? Is this his fault? Show us thy mercy, O Lord, and grant us thy salvation. I will hear what God the Lord will speak, for he will speak peace unto his people and to his saints, but let them not turn again to folly. Let's learn our lesson this time. But maybe this is the end, so it's irrelevant anyway. But if it's not, and I ever produce a child, I'm going to teach him, and he's going to know God. And if he doesn't, then I'm just as bad as my grandfather. Surely his salvation is nigh them that fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. Mercy and truth are met together, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Yea, the Lord will give that which is good, and our land shall yield her increase. So if you're handing him good, and you are walking in righteousness with him, then he blesses you, and bring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Mercy and truth are met together, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Yea, the Lord shall give that which is good. He is giving that which is good. I wish, and our land shall yield her increase. Righteousness shall go before him, and shall set us in the way of his steps. See, why did they fail? Because of the sin nature. Why did they lose the land? Because we are bad. We are, as long as this flesh exists, it's corrupted by Adam's sin. It's only through Christ, through the new nature, we choose to obey him. We choose to love him. We choose to do the right thing. It's through Christ. Christ is the one that does the right thing. My bad intention must come from my grandfather. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about with that. Wilt thou be angry with us forever? Wilt thou draw out thine anger to all generations? To all generations. I hope he is merciful to us. Psalm 86, Thursday. Thank you for listening. Have a blessed day.